What do you love doing that you're really bad at? Something that you royally stink at, but that you still enjoy doing. Just hang on to that thought. We'll come back to it later. I'm going to talk to you about rejection. I am a reject. I am also, and perhaps this is un-Canadian and impolite to say, but I am also a high achiever and successful at what I set out to do. I am a writer of fiction who has written an awful lot and experienced years of rejection. But I am also a writer of fiction who has experienced success, won an international award, and has recently signed her second book contract. So how do I reconcile these two things, being a failure and being a success? I'm going to tell you that one depends on the other, that rejection is a key ingredient to creativity and success, that pushing out work that gets rejected, that this makes you a better creator. It's like making the first pancake in the batch. If all you ever made was the first pancake, and it was crap, people ate it, you'd never know you had a whole batch of great pancakes in you. Thank you, Rory Gilmore. Because if it wasn't for the work that was bad, there wouldn't be the work that was good. These are Booker Award winners Paul Beatty and Marlon James. Paul Beatty's book was rejected 18 times. And Marlon James's book was rejected 78 times. 78 times. Now, I don't know the inner workings of these books, but I think it's entirely possible that the books that were rejected are not the same as the books that they became. We too often console ourselves with tales of famous creators whose seminal works were rejected by fools who failed to see their genius. And we like to think that these fools are probably kicking themselves for not seeing the brilliance in the work. But maybe we should rather be thinking that those rejections were stepping stones on the way to the work reaching its potential. If you are failing, it means you're trying. If you are failing, it means you're succeeding at trying, which is something, right? The author Kim Lau talks about this in her article, Why You Should Aim for 100 Rejections a Year. The idea, which she borrowed from another author, is this. She says, collect rejections. Set rejection goals. I know someone who shoots for 100 rejections a year, because if you work that hard to get that many rejections, you're sure to get a few acceptances too. Now, I asked you, what is it that you love doing that you're really bad at? And this is a question that we often ask students applying to our undergraduate program. It's one of my favorite questions, because I feel like it's really telling. What do you find joy in, despite or perhaps because you aren't succeeding at it? What does it say about you that you are willing to continue to do something that you're bad at, and furthermore, that you actually enjoy it? For me, it's card games and board games. I love them, but I'm terrible at them. Sometimes I'll cajole someone into playing a board game with me that they've never played before, and I'll teach them the rules and then lose to them immediately. It's humiliating. I also love dancing, but I have a feeling I look like Elaine from Seinfeld when I do. It makes me wonder, what is the relationship between complete abandon, exposure, and willful failure at one thing, something that doesn't matter to me, and then returning to the things that I know I'm good at, but that continue to present a challenge? I would argue that it's like going to the gym. It's working off the spare tire of pride. If we are willing to put ourselves out there and fail on a grand scale, we can take a deep breath and return to the things at which we are improving. We work off the fat and we increase the muscles. We get stronger and better. I am an award-winning professor and an award-winning author. I am also a reject. I am a maker scholar, an artist thinker. These compound identities are important to me because together they underpin the words when they're together. For example, that artists don't think on an intellectual level, or that scholars don't understand the struggle of making art. Together, they work. They work in a way that rejection goes with success, the way that failure is part of the creative process. I am a failure achiever. But I am also a deeply sensitive person who, like many creative people, take it very hard when the work that I put out there gets a lukewarm response, or worse, none at all. I feel like I have crafted this special thing, and I've sent it out of the nest only to discover that it can't fly. Creativity is highly personal. It's taking off the clothes of our ideas and asking someone to love them just as they are. Think of poetry and dance and painting. Some of these art forms expose us at our most vulnerable. Creativity is often a glimpse into who we are and what we love best. Because so many artists can't make a living with their art, it is often what people do outside the confines of their family and their occupations. Sometimes they are only doing it because they love it. As for me, when things don't work out, I am prone to asking, "Why is this so hard?" To which Mad Men's Don Draper would say, "You're good, get better, stop asking for things." But we are now in a paradise for those who want that kind of immediacy, and to circumvent the gatekeepers, the people in positions of creative power who wield the sword that can anoint you and your work worthy. Producers, festival committee members, publishers, agents, granting bodies. Traditionally, the creative model was this. We worked and schemed and slogged to get our approval of X producer or Y publisher. But perhaps the power dynamic has shifted. Mostly for young creatives who are coming of age in a new creative model. If you are a musician or an artist or a journalist or almost any other creative type, you can get your work out there. You needn't ever seal your work into an envelope and send it up to the upper echelons of tastemakers of the world and wait for an excruciating number of weeks and months to get the approval from X publisher or Y producer. You publish your work yourself. In seconds, you get feedback immediately from your peers. You can watch in real time as you are approved via likes and followers and shares. We become addicted to the immediate approval. Social media's means of approval is often our measure of success. Great reviews and shares are currency. We are a culture of prosumers, producer-consumers. In a creative democracy where the cream rises to the top and our peers are the tastemakers. There's no waiting in this scenario. In a matter of moments, a creative maker could discover that someone in Moose Jaw loves their work and someone in Brazil thinks they should never quit their day job. We've all heard stories of how 50 Shades of Grey started as fan fiction, or of musicians who were discovered on YouTube and artists on Instagram. There is a tendency in this democratized model to reject the rejectors, to combat why your or someone else's work wasn't chosen. We have all been on one side of this conversation. They don't know what they're talking about. It's all about marketing. I'd like to see them try. They probably live in their mother's basement. Our friends, our supporters, and our own secret hearts want to believe that our work was rejected through some flaw, either in the system or the people who rejected it. We believe that insidious monetary reasons or nepotism or blindness prevents people from seeing the brilliance. This is my story. I have written 3 books. The first was picked up by the first and only publisher I sent it to. The experience was wonderful. It was well received, it was well reviewed, and I was signed with an amazing agent. I then wrote 2 novels. The first was good. It was rejected by all the top-tier publishers, then all the smaller ones. And every single time my agent sent me an email with a rejection in it, it stung. I felt like I had no talent. Most of the rejection letters said that I was a new talent, and they looked forward to seeing more of my work, as though I hadn't just spent years working on this thing, as though there was more work. Spoiler alert, there was. There is. People told me to self-publish it, but I made the choice not to do that. Maybe I'm old school. Maybe it's because I came of creative age during the era of conventional publishing. But mostly it's because I truly believe in the talent and skills of those who make decisions of what to publish. I believe they know what they're doing. These are the people who make the books that I love. And if I continue to read and love books that come out of the publishing industry, it's because I believe in that system. I kept sending it out. I kept getting rejections. Many rejection letters begin, "Thank you for submitting. Thank you for submitting." It reminds me of being in high school and dilly-dallying over some creative thing or another, and my brother, who was much wiser than I at the ripe old age of 17, said, "Well, no one's going to thank you for not trying." I kept trying. I decided to write another book. It was better. It was much better. It was so much better because I had learned an enormous amount from reading those rejection letters. I learned that the reader saw something different than what I saw. What a gift to have people with keen eyes and ears hear and see and read your work. I revised the book many times. There have been countless drafts. I added, I took away, I edited, I polished it to a sheen. And then the new novel was rejected many times. I revised it. I kept working. In the meantime, I submitted it to an international contest for unpublished works that feature the inner lives of women, the Half the World Global Literati Award. And in the midst of a summer of rejections, when I thought my agent was going to break up with me, I got a phone call telling me that I had won the contest, beating out authors in 59 other countries and winning a staggering monetary prize. They told me while I sat on a rock up north with my family that CBC would be interviewing me in half an hour. I had to go down to the lake to get good reception. My life changed in an instant. And still, I continued to revise my book, to make it better. The rejections made me set my goals higher. When I started this talk, I was still making the book better. And it is in large part because the rejections that beget the revisions, that beget success, that beget more revisions. The first draft of this talk was different than this one. It was worse. It got better. When I was on the third draft of this particular talk on rejection, I got a phone call from my agent. She told me that HarperCollins is going to be publishing my novel. I think I may have deafened her in my absolute joy on the phone. It turns out I'm not quite as serene in the face of success as I am in the face of failure. It had not come easily, and because of that, it was so much sweeter. And I will continue to refine the book right up until they tell me that it's ready. We too often reject the rejectors. They should be thanked rather than scorned, because they had a role in improving the work. Think of it this way. Your best work could get better. Your best work might be what you consider your worst work in a few years. Your highest achievement to date, the thing that took you years and that no one has yet appreciated, might be the bottom rung of your creative ladder. What a wonderful, liberating thought. Think of rejections as the food you need, the sustenance you require to reach. As well as thinking of failure as a stepping stone to success, think of failure as success as a stepping stone to failure, that it's part of the journey and not the destination. I recently was speaking to someone about the perils of doing a PhD. It is lonely, difficult work. It is a slog. It is akin to sending yourself out on an ice floe with nothing but your ideas to keep you company. I don't think I've gotten over it quite myself yet. At any rate, the person I was speaking to told me that they had received some excellent advice, and it is this. Your PhD should be the worst work that you do. Think of that. The highest level of education you can receive is only the beginning. It's meant to be hard, and it's only part of the journey. Maybe the beginning. It was for me. I also recently had coffee with a former student. He is early in his creative career and wanted to meet because he was already feeling like he was besieged with rejections from granting bodies and festivals and contests. He asked me with a plea in his voice, "Where will I be in 10 years?" And I told him that by then, he'll have had many successes that will seem small to him by then, but huge to him when they happened. That he will continue to get turned down, but that they will make his work better. And that because of them, he'll set his goals higher than they are now, out of reach. They are goals because they aren't easy. They're supposed to be hard. Or the successes, which we get because the rejections taught us so much, wouldn't be worth shouting from the rooftops. This is my advice. Set both reasonable and impossible goals. You might pass by the reasonable ones on your way to achieving the impossible. Consider that any act of putting your work out there is not just a chance to succeed, but a chance to learn. Be open to change. Listen to feedback. Be gracious when you receive it. Gratitude should be given not just to those who deliver the news of our success, but to those who convey our failures. Share the work of others. Absorb it. Read, listen, watch, enjoy. And finally, remember this. We're in this together. Many, many of our heroes have stories of tales that they almost gave up, that they were filled with despair and lacked confidence. They kept going, and so can you. Difficulties, rejections, they are the rungs on the ladder to success, but we are foolhardy to step on those who give them to us on our way up. It is because of them that we can climb so high. Thank you.